This meeting is being recorded.
Boy, you can hear echoes on that. Hey, Rick, get up. Hey, good afternoon. This is Saturday. What is today? October 4th, 10-4, good buddy. And this is the DMR Tech Net TV show at the Kalamazoo Hamfest. Thanks to our good friend Dustin, N8RMA. I'm Dana KCØMYP, part of the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net team. Also assisting me today is Rick AD8KN. And on the Zoom call, we currently have, I see Curt KFØCQN. We both have the 0 call signs on that one. We've also got Steve, KC8, WXM. I see our good friend Ralf over in Germany, DL3BCB. And also we've got one of the co-founders of the TechNet, Stan, down in Florida, WB8QJZ, waiting for others to check in. Tonight today we're talking about a quick start for DMR for beginners. Dustin already did a great discussion 2 hours ago about DMR. So basically what we want to do is we're also missing a few people, but they are on vacation today. Steve, he's heading to Scotland tomorrow. I think he's driving to
Monday.
So Steve's going to have fun. Sorry, I'm blocking the view on that one. All right. What is the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net? That is something we started. Tom, N8TJ, Stan, WB8QJZ, and myself, we started to warm up the repeater for Dustin on the MichiganOne DMR Net, the oldest DMR net in Michigan. That started in 2019, April 1st. It wasn't an April Fool's joke. And we decided that we wanted to get on there, at least get our names out. And we started at 8 o'clock and we went for 10, maybe 15 minutes. The very first time we started February 14th, Valentine's Day, in 2022. So we've been doing our net for 2.5 years, 2.5 years. Dustin, a couple years ago, he had some issues with work that kept him busy. He couldn't run the net, so he asked us to help him out. We did that. And then earlier this year, his work is keeping him so busy. So he decided to share or give his net over to us. So we changed our name from the DMR Tech Net, as you see behind Steve on the screen, to the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net in honor of Dustin, who helps us out when he can. And he did a very great job, and 6.5 years in running, still going strong. So that's what we do. Every Monday night, we do our net at 7:30, it starts. And we talk about, or basically explain DMR. It's new, it's different. And if you don't know what it is, you're going to, I don't know about that, but it's the new, it's the latest, the greatest. We're going to talk about why it's different, why we think it's better, but also we try and demystify it because there's a lot of things that are similar to ham radio, but they are different. As Dustin and I were chatting earlier today, we talked about on that. So to get started, we're going to go with my good friend Rick, WA3TUU. Oops, hold on. He got his extra class. 88KN, good friend of mine, Rick from Hazlet, Michigan. He's going to explain what is DMR and how does it work. Rick?
Oh, well, this should be fun. Do all you guys have hand license?
Yep.
So you don't?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not yet.
So you may not know what a net is. That's just a bunch of guys getting together
Sure you know,
on the radio.
I'm in the military, so
Oh, you were in the military?
I'm not yet.
Oh, God, you know what a net is. Heaven for heaven's sake. I used to be there.
Okay.
I got out in 78.
Okay.
I started off on the signal course, so I know what a net is. I learned how to run a net. Anyhow, I'm gonna have to use a light because I gotta look at what I'm doing.
And Rick, slide over to your right.
Oh, sorry,
You're right. To your right. Slide over.
right.
Okay, so you're in the camera.
Yeah, I want to be out of the way. Anyhow, I retired in 2017, and after I had been inactive for a few years. Early 2000s, I was on HFCW QRP, so it's low power and Morse code. So I had a blast with that, but I was off for a while. My career is a computer jockey. So I designed and wrote systems for computer servers, client server stuff. So I knew a lot of that. And I found DMR and digital mobile radio intrigued me. So this is digital, okay? I should be able to understand this. So a little more research. I ordered an Anytone 878 from Bridgecom. It's 878 UV2, which doesn't have enough room for all the contacts. So we'll talk about that later. Why I chose that? It's an expensive radio, but it's popular radio. Bridgecom had their Bridgecom University, so I could go out and partake of their videos. And I used YouTube, I used Bridgecom, a lot of different sources to learn about DMR and to make my radio work. And just for instance, I was sitting in a low spot in East Lansing at the Foods for a Living parking lot. My wife was in shopping. I talked through a repeater on the old McLaren Hospital, which I'm not sure how far away that is, 5-6 miles away, maybe a little more. But through that repeater, I talked to a fellow in Israel, and we BS'd for several minutes. So those are the kinds of things you can do with DMR. You're not restricted with an HT to what the local 50-60 mile radius of a repeater on 2 meters, less on 70. You go out all over. And then I found the MichiganOne Net with Dustin and Randy. Yeah. So I got on with those guys. And earlier in 1973, I passed the extra. So I was like 70, 72. So I was studying 71, 72. And I passed that extra, so anybody can do it. It's just, you got to remember all the questions and answers. And I'll admit too, this DMR has a steep learning curve. It's, I'm not fooling. There's a lot of things to learn and kind of upfront. So don't want to scare anybody, but I was 70 when I did it, so anybody should be able to do it. But digital mobile radio is a digital radio standard for voice and data transmission in non-public radio networks. It was created by the European Telecommunications Standards Institute, ETSI, and was designed to be low cost and easy to use. Now it is for commercial applications. So you see a lot of Motorola radios running DMR. A lot of commercial people use that. And before P25, and after that, it's they're using more, and they use encrypted channels too now where we can. So that's how it got started. Motorola picked it up and made it a little. Anyhow, how it works. There's in your radio, and your radio is a little bit special because you have to have a DMR radio, but it has an analog to digital converter. And it converts your voice into digital format, separates that into packets. Okay, well, it compresses it, separates it into packets, adds forward error correction to it, which is another nice feature of using the internet. And then the packets are transmitted to a server, like normal internet traffic. When you do something on the browser, it goes to a server, and then the server sends something back. Well, in this case, it goes to the server. Server sends it back out on all the people that are listening. It knows who's listening on a particular. I hate to use the terminology talk group, and we'll find out what that is later. And let's see. Now I've got to switch pages. I got 2 pages. Let's see if we get through it in 10 minutes. And you're keeping time, right? Mm-hmm. As you will hear later, the voice quality is far superior to FM. It's just, I mean, a lot of FM repeaters, you get close to them, good voice quality, but the voice quality on DMR is superior. You either have it or you don't. You either receive it or you don't receive it. Now, what we're using out here today, we're going through a phone that's situated outside that, and it's not a great connection. So you may hear some drops and bits and changes. When you get connected to a repeater or connected to your own hotspot, it's much cleaner than that. So
I just want to share one thing. You guys remember, at least when I was, most of us, maybe all of, listening to the radio, AM radio, growing up, Detroit Tigers, AM. At night, sorry, signal quality didn't go good and it's kind of staticky. And sometimes I worked at a radio station, you had to power off at night, so other channels with higher power. We also started broadcasting FM and then FM stereo. So I think of amateur radio as AM. DMR is your FM stereo or FM quad. It is that much nicer, cleaner, clear sound. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, a normal analog signal is 25 kilohertz wide. Everybody agree with that? A DMR signal is 12.5 kilohertz wide. So you get better voice quality out of half the signal. That's what all your compression and A to D and D to A converters do. And since your transmission is going on the internet, it can be a lot of issues. You know, it's going to that server, it's coming back. It could be a little latency. And there's some in there. You could get some interruptions. You know, your internet provider doesn't provide 100% uptime, right? So you could get, you know, some error loss, some bit loss. But as I said before, when you get the signal, you have it. You either have it or you don't. So it's either pretty good or very good, or you don't hear anybody at all. Most of you know what doubling is. If two people try to talk on the same repeater at the same time, they kind of get garbled together and you can't understand anybody. Well, on DMR, if one person talks, they've got the channel, the other guy gets shut out. And you don't know if you get shut out or not. So so the guys come back and tell you, sorry, you're double. Repeat. Now, your signal is processed by a network. And you're going to hear the terms Brandmeister and TGIF and all this later. They run the servers that you're talking through. And there's certain rules that you have to follow. So you know, make sure you follow the rules. One is in the Michigan talk group, if you talk more than 10 minutes at a time, they ban you from the talk group for a certain period of time. If you do it more than once, you get banned longer. So certain things like that. But there are interest groups, and I call them talk groups. I guess I'll bring that term up again. That are for different subjects. Like geographically, the United States is divided up. Each state has their own talk group. Now, you don't have to sign into that state's talk group to talk to that state. You can sign in any talk group as long as the other guys sign into yours. Where am I going with this? So there's a lot of different interest groups. And you have to go to like Brandmeister has their talk groups, TGIF has their talk groups. So, and they're different numbers. So you have to find which ones you want to sign on to and find the people work there. There's also what's called a parrot. If you don't have this in the analog, you can't hear what your signal sounds like. But if you use the parrot talk group, you transmit, and a few minutes later it comes back, or a few seconds later, it comes back to you exactly what you said. So you can hear how your signal sounds. You also get digital information along with that. Now, there's certain ins and outs to this. Different groups do different ones, but normally when you talk to someone on the radio, you see their call sign come across on the radio. You may see their name and location as well. So you get that along with. You can have private calls. You can call if you know somebody's, you'll get a thing called a DMR ID, which is your kind of like your call sign, only it's a 7-digit number. If you know someone else's 7-digit number, you can open up a channel to them and use that as a talk group, and you're talking directly to them. No one else is listening in, or should. I mean, it's not guaranteed. People can hear in. So it's not like a repeater. It's not repeated, not like talking with a talk group. You're talking directly to them. Do I use that? No. And you can have your own repeater. Okay, your repeater in a house. It's like that little thing sitting down there in the corner. It's called a hotspot. It's connected to the internet. It talks to your radio, processes the signal out to the internet. So it does all the things a local repeater would do, only it doesn't have the range. Mine at home, my walkie-talkie, I use 50 milliwatts to get to that hotspot. And that's all the power I use to get to it. And doesn't change the voice quality at all. So there's a number of additional, there's a number of additional things that you need to program radio. You two guys or three guys will know. Handy talkie, you got to program. You got to program the frequencies in and all that stuff. I'm trying to think military wise. I don't know current military radios.
No worries.
You got it? Okay. So you basically use a Windows computer for most of them. You can play with Apples and get there, but you use that to program your radio. You also use that to interact with your hotspot, so you can actually see who's on the top group, who talked when, and a lot of other information about the contact. Potential problems with DMR. There's digital artifacts that I call them. They're flirps, squeaks, beeps. You hear them every once in a while, not all the time. A lot of times if a particular internet provider is having issues, that's when you're going to hear them. But for the most part, things are, some Monday nights we have our net. Everybody is loud and clear, to include Australia, Missouri, and Canada. Everybody's perfectly clear. Other times things kind of drop in and out. Someone might drop out. And, so those are, you go with it. And it usually takes a second or two to transmit or change from one signal to the other. Custom is you leave, when you've done transmitting, you leave a space for some people to jump in. One thing I missed back here, when you're finished talking on the talk group, for instance, you're done, you want to sign off, go QRT. You've got to send a talk group 4,000. Yeah, it's called chunking the talk group. It's like chunking the repeater. You got tuned to that talk group, hit the button and off, and it'll come back and tell you you're disconnected. So you need to disconnect. And you're basically disconnecting from that Brandmeister or TGIF or wherever, whatever group you're talking about. There is a complexity of programming the radio. That's what I don't want to fool you. It can be challenging from time to time. I was challenged for several days making mine work. Finally made it work. There's a network called TGIF in Michigan. That's usually a lot of disaster. They practice a lot of disaster issues like not APRS, but what's the disaster? No, the Aries. Yeah, they do a lot of Aries stuff on that network, and it's throughout Michigan. So not a lot of traffic on it, but you get tied up with those guys for that. So there's a lot of interesting places on DMR, a lot of interesting places to go, a lot of interesting things you can do with the radio, because the radios are programmable. All the buttons on them, you can change that around. Just got to take the time to do it. Like on my Anytone, I have one button programmed for 4,000, so I just hit the button and it sends the 4,000 for chunk it, and it should be signed off. Supposedly you can turn your hotspot off with that too.
Once you're connected to a talk group, you stay connected unless Rick mentioned you disconnect from it. And sometimes it's very busy. You can't per chunk for get on. But there's other ways to do that.
Yeah. But anyhow, that's the 10,000 foot level. Do you have any questions?
Just a comment. So I own and run the repeater here in town. For us, if you activate sort of a dynamic toggle, one that's not normally, and you don't disconnect it, that's okay, because every 15 minutes it'll disconnect it. So there is a timeout period. Good operating practice is to say I'm no longer using it, so I'll disconnect it and leave the repeater in the state I found it in. But there is a default start, so it's always advised to check with, if it's not your hotspot, like Dana owns that one, he controls the settings for it. If you don't own it, check with the repeater owner configuration to see how theirs is set up. For instance, I've got a whole page that explains everything from tip to tail on the repeater, what toggle groups are there, where to find them, timing and stuff like that. So just a point out.
Excuse me, if you want to find DMR repeaters in your area, repeaterbook.com. And that lists generally all the repeaters in the area, analog and DMR and C4FM, Jesus, Fusion. And there's usually a link there into the repeaters page. Should be a link there to Dustin's page.
There is.
So you can find, Repeater Book does a good job of giving you the basic information you need to connect. But all those rules, like he says, when's the timeout? Usually repeaters time out in 15 minutes. So if you're not talking, they'll time out. So that's a good place for the information. Any other questions?
We'll save room for questions at the
Did I baffle with too much information? We're still understanding. We're still with us. I don't see any heads nodding. So
DMR is scary at times. I'll tell you. You got to start somewhere, like riding a bicycle on that. But all right, as Rick mentioned, I've got my hotspot here. I've got a radio, but are radios expensive? Are they special? What do you need? Well, we're going to talk to two members of the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net team. You can see them on the screen. We've got top left-hand corner, there's Curt KFØCQN, as well as on the top right-hand corner is Steve, KC8 Whiskey X-Ray Mike. Sorry, Steve. You and Brad, I always mix the call signs up. They're going to go over the material or the equipment you need to get started with DMR. I don't know who's going first, Steve or Curt?
I'll go. Just can you hear me okay?
Can you guys hear me okay? Yes.
All right. So my name is Steve Sutton. I'm in Petoskey, Michigan. I am Kilo Charlie 8 Whiskey X-Ray Mike. I got my call sign back in 2003 when I first got my technician license. I've since progressed to general. You don't need you only need a technician license to get into DMR because it's on VHF and UHF. The main thing you're going to need is probably a radio. Okay, you can get one of these Anytone radios here like this. This is the 878 UV2, and if you want the version, the latest one they have, or the 878 UV2 Plus with Bluetooth, so you can hook up a Bluetooth headset, a microphone, and have at it so you can safely drive your vehicle while operating your radio. This is probably the only thing you'll need, with maybe an external antenna mount if you're in a vehicle or out walking about, and a repeater. That's basically your minimum equipment, and to be able to program this so you can talk to the talk groups and switch them out on the repeater. And like you said, there's some repeaters you'll look and see what type of talk groups they already have set up. Like the one in my local area in Petoskey is set up for the 3126, the Michigan State. And you get to, on the Brandmeister, there's a 10-minute limit on that. So you have to be careful. You have to go to a different, what is that called? Different talk group, like 310. But anyway, there's other ways to get on there. Is if you're at home, you're not within range of a repeater, is a hotspot. And these hotspots, I don't know if you can see this little device here. This is a really small Pi Zero, and it has everything you need for this radio to connect to it to the internet. This has some ports in there. You have an internet port, also has Wi-Fi built into it. This can be used on your cellular phone, connect up for the data. But this has a very small screen, very low battery power drain on it. has just one single antenna. Some of these will have multiple antennas, and there'll be a duplex type of repeater. But who we have Curt. Do you have anything else to talk about?
Well, like you said, radios are probably the most important thing you have. You shut off that 878 there. This is a 168. This is its little brother. Lower cost option. It is no Bluetooth though, no GPS in it. But there are some things on this radio I do like. I like the fact that it does audio sound leveling. So if you're talking to somebody and they're a little hot or a little quiet, it kind of optimizes that. It also does dynamic optimization of your voice on outbound. So like when I plug in my headset, I don't have to mess with the radio settings to get my audio quality to the same level. So it's a nice little radio. It comes in around $200. But as far as radios on the low end side, this is a Retevis RT3S. You pick these up on Amazon for $70-ish, depending on the day. This one actually runs OpenGD77 software, so it's an open source software. But you can get this, talk to a local repeater, and for under $100 be on DMR. So you don't have to go to an expensive radio to get on DMR. I will say this radio sacrifices some stuff over my 878, my 168. Audio quality out of the speaker is a little less, but I also paid a little less. So kind of get what you pay for with the radio.
Other things to note too is not only just with a radio or something like that. There's other devices too. So if you want to get on DMR and you have, I think the current, I got this one on a sale for $360, but they do have these for about $400, and there's called a Shark RF M1KE or mic. This has the hotspot and an IP WAN radio all built into one unit. I don't need to hook this up to a computer for programming. It all can be done from here. I can hook up to a Wi-Fi network anywhere, right from the device itself. If I switch talk groups, it automatically does a 4000 disconnect. I can have different profiles on there and switch from, if I want to use profile per network, like TGIF, go to Brandmeister, to go to All-Star Network or Echolink. I can do all those. There's P25 also has an option on there. I haven't played with a lot of them, but it's a pretty incredible device. And there's also DroidStar and different applications you can put on your phone or your PC computer that you can get onto DMR without even having to purchase a hotspot or radio. So back to Dana, KCØMYP from KC8WXM.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Curt. Also, they have mobile radios. And something else that's really kind of neat, and Dustin's got one of these, but these are for AM, FM. You can use them with your local 2-meter repeater or 440 repeater. No if, and, or buts. So they come in handy. So once you get the radio and get everything all set, programming it, that's the tricky part, but find an Elm or someone that can help you. And then the reason we met Dustin years ago was because of nets. Dustin, as I mentioned earlier, had the Mac Daddy of the nets, the oldest DMR net in Michigan. And I've got a list, and it's in your newsletter. Also, if you guys haven't signed up, we send out a weekly newsletter about the DMR Tech Net. Sign up for it. It's actually easy. Subscribe at MichiganOne DMR Tech.net. But nets, there are today's Saturday. So there's a net tonight at 7:00. It's on the major DMR network, which is Brandmeister. They have about 70% of the market. When you buy radios, they almost all come pre-programmed with Brandmeister. But there are other networks, and you're going to find something you like. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But tonight at 7:00 out of Ann Arbor, Matt, WS8U, runs the Arrow DMR Net. They have an Arrow DMR club. You guys, Dustin, have you been there to it?
Earlier on.
Okay. And I know that Tom on our team, N8TJ, he used to attend that one pretty regularly on that. At 7:00, it's really fun, easy to check in. At 7:30 on a different network, TGIF. We have one of our DMR Tech Net team members. That's Brad K8 Whiskey November Victor. He does a trivia net. I don't know where he comes up with these questions, but they are damn good. And you get awards sometimes if you make the best wrong answer, or if you make up stuff to go with it, like Steve did one time. So that was really cool when he did that. And then that's at 7:30, but it's on the TGIF network. The talk group is 31268. We created that talk group. In fact, Steve, you just heard him. It's in the top left-hand corner of the screen behind me. He created that, and because somebody that we know got banned on Brandmeister for talking more than 10 minutes. They have a 10-minute statewide limit. And so Steve created that, and it made it so much fun. And it's a lot of fun. And Brad does some cool stuff on there. It's every Saturday night, 7:30. And then after his net, at 8 o'clock, he runs the ARL news line. He's got it tied in to his All-Star node and his Echolink node. And I think there's another one he's just recently added to it. So you can always hear your ARL news line. Sundays, there's a nice lady named Lucille up in the Upper Peninsula. Yes, we do have women with DMR. Lucille does a good job. And Dustin, do you know how long that net's been going on?
4 years, 3 years.
It's quite a while. And Lucille's in her mid-80s. She's doing DMR. She runs a really good net Sunday nights. It starts at 6:30. It's on Brandmeister, a couple clicks up from where we are, and that's 31268, the UP channel. And then on Mondays, that's when Dustin's net used to be. So we started at 8 o'clock, and then we ended about 8:15, and sometimes went all the way down to 8:30. Sometimes we went past it and went on his time. But things changed, and now at 7 o'clock, we have a photography discussion group. Any of you guys photographers? Join us. You can listen for free on Brandmeister. And Rick is one of the net controls for that. They talk photography, all about it. It's actually kind of cool. And that's at 7 o'clock. And they warm up the repeater because at 7:30, we combine Dustin's net with our tech net. It's now called the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net. And that begins at 7:30 with check-ins. And then typically around 8 o'clock is when we get into our topic. And this coming Monday, it's how to recruit more people for DMR. And if you guys haven't signed up for the newsletter, do it. You can also go to our website and check it. Information's in your newsletter you got there. But those are the Michigan nets that we know about that we do. And hopefully you guys will join us. Or we're easy to find. We're on QRZ. We have a website. You can contact us. Whatever we can do, just like Dustin, we try and do what we can to help promote DMR. So with that, those are the nets that we know about. So how do you listen to DMR? We talked, you can use a radio. Steve mentioned there's another one that has a hotspot built in, but there's other ways. So we've got our friend Stan. He plays Santa Claus in wintertime. If you guys can't tell, look at the picture behind me. Stan's one of the co-founders of the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net, WB8QJZ. In the summers, he's up in Calumet, Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. In the winters, he does not like snow. And his wife says, down south. So he's in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Stan, why don't you tell us, and I don't see Brad, so Stan, you're on your own with this one, but why don't you tell us many ways you can hook up and listen to DMR?
Well, Dana, I think you've mentioned a lot of them, but one, if you just want to listen, you can use Brandmeister hose line. And I believe it's hose.brandmeister.network. You can look it up on a web browser, use a normal web browser, and they will show you all the active talk groups. You can pick one of them, click on it, and listen on your computer to see what's going on. It's a good way to practice and test drive some talk groups before you decide to program them into your radio. I like to be mobile, so today I was using the same radio that Steve discussed here, which is the Shark RF mic, and I was using that at home. I transitioned in the car. We were out grocery shopping. We went to 2 different stores. I came back home and it automatically switched all my Wi-Fi connections for me. So I never lost any connectivity to you. The Curt had mentioned, other radios. So I do I started out with the Radioddity GD77, and I've run the Open GD77 firmware on those, been using those since the very beginning, and absolutely love that. Another low-cost radio that you can do that with is to get yourself a Bofang DM1701 and be able to put the open firmware on that. Totally changes the radio. You can be looking at amateur satellites. You can look at the International Space Station. You can receive things from it and decode the audio information. There's all kinds of different things you can do. And something I just heard recently, and I don't know that I've ever heard anyone in our groups here use the term, but DMR, instead of being digital mobile radio, some beginners, I believe, say it's the dark magic realm. Dark magic realm. Anyway, back to you, Dana.
Dark Magic Realm. That's a good one, Stan. I like that. I like that. Before we check it, we're going to show you guys, you've heard us talk about the sound quality. You guys are going to get to hear it shortly. Stand by. And we're going to go Michigan, we're going to go across the US, and we're even going to go across the country, across different continents. So stand by. First, Dustin and Rick, would you guys like to real quick run through some DMR jargon? Because you guys hear the word jargon. What are they talking about? What does it mean? And sometimes you should, other times you shouldn't use it. Like you heard them say code plugs, hotspots, talk group 4000, the disconnect channel, the parrot channel. What the hell's the parrot channel? So, Rick, you want to?
We'll start off with the parrot channel. That's top group, actually, it's 9990. It's 9999. And like I said, that's what am I saying about? Sorry. That's that gives you the ability to verify how your signal sounds. And it comes right back to you, and it's kind of spooky, but you sound how twangy, you see how twangy you sound on the radio.
And also you can make sure you're connected to the repeater, the local repeater, or to your hotspot. When you're mobile, you want to make sure you're protected, because otherwise, why talk? No one can hear you.
And remember, I mentioned that DMR signal is half the size of a normal analog signal. In order to handle those two signals on one repeater, they've got time slots. So there's time slot 1, time slot 2, and you have to be in the right time slot to be able to hear it. So, Dustin, what do you got?
I'll handle a couple of the technical ones. So, to his point, so we're talking about 2 time slots. That might not mean anything to anybody who doesn't know anything about DMR, but a standard FM radio and a FM repeater, you can have one person talking at a time, right? Like you'll be talking, everyone else will be listening, and then I'll say something. The nice thing about DMR is that you have 2 data streams that are next to each other. Well, not next to each other, but built into each other, so you can have more communication per single stream. So I have one repeater, but it acts like 2 because there's two sides to it, side 1 and side 2. That's accomplished by what's known as TDMA, time division multiple access. So what happens is during the digital signal, it's incrementing. So it's transmitting, time slot 1 is transmitting for 50% of the time, and time slot 2 is the other 50%. So it increments back and forth. It flips back and forth between them. So what's interesting about it is it's using 12.5 kilohertz. That's the bandwidth of the signal. But something like D star uses 6 1/4. It uses half that. So it's the same amount, but the voice quality is being transmitted over 6 1/4 kilohertz. Whereas with DMR, it's the full 12.5. So it sounds richer, sounds a lot better, more forward error correction, more data, same bandwidth. that you can fit. So you can fit 2 data streams within a 12.5 kilohertz section, whereas with D-Star you could only do more due to spacing. So that's TDMA. That's how the technology works, and that's what makes it so interesting. And again, you get times out 1, times out 2 based on that. What else can we talk about in terms of jargon? You might know the term promiscuous mode or monitor mode. That one's really interesting because you might have a single repeater or a single hotspot, might have access to thousands and thousands of talk groups. Well, how do you sort of weed that out and listen to the ones that you want to listen to, or talk on the ones that you want to listen to? Especially when it comes to receive, promiscuous mode allows you to hear anything that's coming through. So, for instance, my particular radio and my particular repeater isn't set up for this particular talk group, but can one of you guys key up on your hotspot and you'll be able to hear it as I'm listening. Their radios are connected to that little box. Mine's connected to the repeater across the street.
This is
You gotta give me a little bit more because you're
let me go out here so
Yeah.
go over.
So he's routing through that box through a cell phone out to the cellular network into the WAN. Repeater, and
This is
so-
AD8KN on Brain Micro 31266 at the Kalamazoo Hamfest.
So they're actually not making it for so they're not actually making it into the system, otherwise I would do that. So kind of a bad demonstration, but you know how this technology doesn't always work. If they were able to make it out into the WAN, then it would hit the internet and then it would go to my repeater out through there, we'd be able to hear. But I don't have their talk group set up, doesn't matter, I can listen to it. So promiscuous mode just allows you to hear any activity that happens to be out there.
Can you explain static dynamic talk group?
Oh man, how much time do I have? So there's a concept of static and dynamic talk groups, and it only applies to how you configure talk groups on your hotspot or on your repeater. So for instance, I've got 2 time slots on my repeater. On time slot 2, I always have the Michigan statewide talk group on there. Always, no matter what. If there's activity on that talk group, it's getting pushed out through my repeater. Always. I can't turn it off. You can't. Well, I can turn it off, but you can't turn it off. Dana can't turn it off. Rick can't turn it off. It's always on. But they can activate, say, the AMSAT group or the Army Vets group or whatever it is that they want. They can activate that talk group on there. That one's dynamically, so they can turn it on and they can turn it off. But the MichiganOne is always on there. On time slot 1, I've got a local talk group that's set as static, always on. So static groups are a good way to link repeaters together, or to show some kind of importance. For me, Michigan's important, so it's always on. When I go to set up the other DMR repeater at the new EOC in Portage, I'm going to put a DMR repeater there, and I'm going to link these 2 together. So if you're in North County and you key up and you get this repeater, or you're in South County and you key up and you get that repeater, doesn't matter. Operates the same. They're all linked, and they both kind of light up together. So that's sort of the difference between dynamic and static. Just think static is always on, that talk group is always on that talk group, and dynamic, you can turn it on. Gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. DMR, in other words, dark magic radio.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear C4FM or Fusion. That's a Yacer thing. It's also a digital mode, digital radio. It's also very good quality. And there's a lot of talk groups that are tied to from Fusion to DMR. There are those bridges built. So talk group 91, especially, you might hear somebody in England, they're talking on Fusion. And you're on the radio. Another term we have here too called color codes. That's nothing more than a PL drop. That's how you secure who the thing is out. So what else?
Let's make some contacts so they can hear it all on our sound. And here's what's really cool. If you guys, I don't know if you can see the display. Nice thing is these are color. I put different colors on, but also it tells me the talk group I'm on, the date, time, digital channel versus analog, where it is in my code plug, what the name of it is, who was the last caller, and what their call sign was. And that's the nice thing with DMR. You can see all that and see it with the display. I can't get it up today because of the different networks we have here, but just so you guys, I want you to listen, and we may have to have Dustin with your radio to do that too. Let's see if we can hear anyone in the state of Michigan. KC0MYP. Remember, you got to ID every 10 minutes, even though you can still see it on the display. Not everything has a good display in it though, but KC0MYP on the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net channel, which is Brandmeister 31266. Let's see, anyone in Petoskey around?
Oh, he's sleeping. What's going
I
on?
don't hear him.
Yeah, because I don't think you guys are making it sure. We'll see. All right, this is NARMA on the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net.
Channel,
Talk.
Michigan Nets channel.
Yeah, I don't know. NARMA, anybody out there? Anybody out there?
Steve's right here. What's going on?
Dustin, we'll let you get up here. Get up here. Get up here. Because you're connecting on that one. That was the ask me.
Steve, where are you at again? Give us a little bit more of a transmission there so people here can actually hear what it sounds like.
I turn the volume.
Step on
Oh, we're staying.
Dan there.
Yeah. I think the hotspot turned off. Because it's not connected. Go ahead and so that's in the US. Go ahead.
You should be able to just key up. Hopefully it'll.
So that's where we can hear what people sound like in the US. We heard Michigan, we heard Missouri, we heard Florida on that one. I'll bet, and do you guys hear the audio quality? So it's on really good. Let's go outside the US. Let's go to Germany and let's see, because what antenna? A small one, this one right here. We don't have a huge antenna stack. It doesn't matter what band we're on, doesn't matter what the weather conditions are, what time of the day. DMR works great most of the time. Sometimes you have issues like that. Well, let's see if DL3BCB over in Germany. Hey, Ralph, are you there? What time is it? What's your weather like?
Well, good afternoon to you. My name is Ralph. Full time is Delta Lima 3 Bravo Charlie Bravo. I'm located a little north of Hamfest, north of Germany. Over here, it's sun, and here that we can see the length. Yeah, what I enjoy with DMR is people find me friends all over the world, and how Dana mentioned, music antenna is needed, and it's very protected. Lima 3 Bravo Charlie Bravo, traffic to my school to
So that's the beauty of DMR is you've got a user who's in Germany who has a radio, who's going into a repeater or a little hotspot like this that's connected to the internet, and then it's going through the internet out
To your repeater.
to my repeater across the street at the sheriff's complex, and then from there
Back to his radio.
And it actually was, if you could see him up there in the corner talking, we could actually hear him. There's less of a delay on that than there is on Zoom. So that's what's really, I mean, obviously HF radio is instant. So you're talking to somebody in HF, they're actually saying in real time. So this is pretty cool segment.
Now we were talking, oh, there we go. I forget, you got to wait a second, always because of the digital. We were talking about the Brandmeister network, and I've got a friend up in Canada who's up by Quebec. His call sign is VE2VB. His name is Benoit, but we call him Ben. He's actually one of the admins, the administrators for Brandmeister Canada. Yesterday was his birthday, so we might want to sing happy birthday, but let's see if Ben is listening. He said he was going to try and take time out of his day to join us. KC0MYP, remember you got to ID every 10 minutes. VE2VB, Ben, are you around? Let's see.
That still say MI Tech on it?
And he may or may not. He said he was gonna try and sneak away.
Have we heard from him yet?
No.
What's the spell sign?
VE2 VB. Victor Echo 2.
VE2 VE, that ain't already any copy. Any copy?
Visual Basic. Yeah.
Visual basic.
Well, birthday celebration. They probably got him blindfolded and doing something.
Move over to Australia.
All right.
Just make sure it says MI Tech Net on the screen. Does it say MI Tech Net?
Yes.
Okay, then you're good.
We're good. Okay, thanks, Dustin. All right. Well, that was trying to get with Canada, but Ben had his birthday yesterday. Today was his birthday party with his wife. He said he was going to try and make it, no promises. So now we went from Michigan to Missouri, Michigan to Petoskey, Michigan to Port St. Lucie, Florida. We also talked to Hamburg, Germany. Let's go the Southern Hemisphere. Let's see if we can reach anyone down in Australia or New Zealand. And we've got a couple friends. First is John, VK1JT. But keep in mind, it is 1:51 Michigan time, Eastern time. It ain't that time in Australia. So John, if you're around, come on back and say hi. We'll see if he's there. If not, we got one more shot. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 3:30 in the morning, just about 4 o'clock in the morning, Australia time, where he's at. He joined us on the MichiganOne Tech Net on Monday nights, which is kind of cool. Well, I'm not hearing from John. He said he was going to try and make it. Not hearing John. Let's go to New Zealand, which is further east of Australia and on the other side of Australia. Let's see here. Is Paul, our good friend ZL2BEZ in Wellington, New Zealand. Paul, are you around? This is Dana KCØMYP on the MichiganOne DMR Tech Net channel, which is Brandmeister 31266. Paul? Let's see if he can hear us. And no go.
It's early.
Yeah, it's early. It's like 6:30 in the morning his time, I think, or something like that. Well, I'm not hearing them. Hey, Ralph, over in Germany, why don't you go ahead and say a few more words? What's your weather like? Oh, by the way, you had a holiday off work yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. We talked to Ralph in the morning because you're 5 hours ahead of us right now. Is that right?
But even a little more, no, it's 6 hours, we are 6 hours ahead of you, and also if you do it so during noon or late 1 p.m. your time is perfect. You want at 7 hours and leave this is at 1 a.m. our time, so it's really hard for me to make that. No, it's fine over here, as I said, the weather is bad. It's fine now, and we got feeling the radio, you can not have radio as well. Maybe I would like to 19 already. I took my class license and allowed to do some PW also. That's not DMR, but radio is very fantastic. Honey, DMR is one part of it. So they are speaking to billion. It's always fun. Let's go back to you. This is your NYT. Well,
You guys heard the sound quality. It's beautiful. Thank you, Ralph. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Appreciate your helping us tonight on our discussion to the Kalamazoo Hamfest on a DMR quick start guide for beginners. KC0MYP, clear. I always forget that the ID. So we got time for questions, and then I want to do final thoughts from Rick as well as Dustin. Do you guys have any questions on DMR that we haven't answered or you want to pursue or something that popped up? Bob?
How much does the hotspot cost approximately?
Well, that hotspot up there is what, 400 and some odd dollars?
450.
450. So that's an expensive hotspot. I bought, Raspberry Pi 20Ws is the computer, just the computer. I think they're about $20 to $30. And the MMDVM hotspot you can get on Amazon for under $50, 40 some odd dollars. So you marry those two together, you put another terms we didn't talk about was PyStar. And they wrote the hotspot software, the first hotspot software. There's another one called WPSD, which doesn't really work that well with Raspberry 2s.
It's a graphical user interface, which is more modern.
But you could buy with a hotspot if you build it for $80 to $100, if not less. So
And I told them as cheap as 45.
yeah.
What's the range on a hotspot? In other words, like I've got it in my computer, sitting next to my computer, and I'm out in the backyard, and I've got aluminum siding on my house.
Because these are low power. Yeah, they're low power, but 30, 50 feet.
Problem, no, I mean, if you're out in the backyard, I talk on my back deck, but that's outside my house, and it's a cement block house with wood siding on the side. And my hotspot is in one of the front rooms. I was in the back on the deck, talking on DMR with no problem at all.
It'll cover your house.
Yeah, it should cover.
Mine are actually in my basement. They sit in my basement. That's how I walk around in the yard. It's fine.
I was just wondering, if the aluminum siding is a great Faraday field.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have aluminum siding.
It kind of depends on how much power you're using in your radio too, because with the OpenGB77 firmware in the radio, I can cut it down to 50 milliwatts. So when I'm sitting right next to it, I'd use that, and the battery lasts a lot longer.
Yeah.
When you go outside, pump up to 5 watts, and you should be no problem.
But it's a good question because with DMR you need a handshake. So your radio and your repeater, your hotspot are communicating in real time. So if your radio's 5 watts, you can have a hell of a lot farther range than your hotspot, but it doesn't matter. You're dictated by the lowest power. So your hotspot at half a watt is going to dictate the length of how far the computer is.
Okay.
Because as soon as you get out from that handshake, you're connected.
Right. Okay.
And if worse comes to worse, we'll just put in a bigger antenna on the hotspot.
Okay. Also, you talked about different network like Bridgestone and
Brandmeister, TGIF, DMark.
How do you go from one to the other?
You know what's really interesting, and Dustin and I, we talked on this, and Rick, I've got a favorites channel. There's only 10 channels in there. And I've got Brandmeister for 4 or 5 of them, TGIF for 3, free DMR for 1, and one is I turn my hotspot off. That's it. And it's on the programming, like you heard him, Rick mentioned the Raspberry Pi, which is the board that's in here. I use the WPSD interface. And it's all how you set up the channel, such as Brandmeister, you just put the channel number in. With TGIF, you have to start with a 5 and then put zeros as padding, so you get a total of 7 digits.
There's a couple.
Yeah.
To answer this question, there's a couple of different ways that you. So it depends on like the repeater or IONET repeater, that's Brandmeister. So you don't get an option on it. If you want to use KMACC, you're using Brandmeister. Now your hotspot, you can select it. So you go into the configuration, it says what do you want to use. You can pick Brandmeister. If you're feeling like TGIF, if you're feeling froggy, you can select that. But you have to have all of the toggles we talked about. I have to have those programmed in, and they're not the same numbers. So if there's a Michigan statewide toggle on Brandmeister, it might be numbered differently than a TGIF. You just have to know that, and then switch your hotspot over to whatever network and make sure that your radio is configured, the toggles are configured appropriately. So, but there are guys that do it all the time, and then there's a way to combine them together. Yeah, that's a little bit more advanced. We just get down the road.
So just
I've got mine combined together, but hold on. Stan, unmute yourself for a minute. Stan has multiple hotspots in the house. One for Brandmeister, one for TGIF, one for other networks. Stan, you want to go in and explain that?
Sure thing, Dana. Well, I guess I like to play with hotspots, and I've got a variety set up. I've got one set up separately for the TGIF network, and that's all I go to for that. So that is one RF position on my radio, which says TGIF net. I have a couple of full duplex hotspots. Full duplex hotspot has two antennas on it, and it's capable of handling time slot 1 and time slot 2 traffic at the same time on the same RF frequency. So that behaves just like a repeater, in that you're gonna key it on one frequency and listen on another frequency. I've also got like the one that Dana has there, the Skybridge. I've got one of those. I've got an interesting one by the TGIF network, and it's called the TGIF slot. And that one has a touch screen, and you can program it everything you want to from the touch screen. You don't have to have a computer connected to it to do anything with it. It's also got a nice big display, gives me a lot of information. That one is the one sitting next to me right now on my on the end table here. And then there are other things like the open spot. I have a Shark RF open spot 2, one of the early ones. And I also have what Steve has here today is the mic, or the M1KE, which is the all-in-one, doesn't need an external hotspot or anything. And that's the radio that I talked on a little bit earlier today. So a whole bunch of different ones. And I think I have 15 or 16 hotspots registered with Brandmeister.
Yeah, that's you can do different hotspots, but understand that you have to have different frequencies for that.
Mhm.
So for every single one, you have to have a different frequency, which again then goes back to you have to make sure that you program that. So is there a way to switch back and forth between them? Yes, there's many different ways to skin that cat.
Another way is different profiles with WPST.
Yeah.
You can also do it that way. Good question, Bob. Those are all good questions. What else? We're here to try and help demystify and explain DMR.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, let's do some final thoughts because we're past 2 o'clock. Dustin, why don't you step back up here?
Yeah.
And Rick, one for you guys.
First of all, I want to say thanks to you guys. When Randy and I started the MichiganOne DMR Net in 2019, I didn't think it was going to go as long as it did, and obviously work got busy, kids got busy, you don't have time for it. So you guys have done a great job. Thank you for taking it over, all of you. We appreciate it. I try to get back when I can. DMR is great. Again, the spiel that I always give people is that for the money, it's the best value. You get it's the highest quality digital voice mode out there when compared to Fusion and D-Star. So that right there puts it at the top. But the fact that you can do one repeater but effectively get 2 at the same time makes it so worthwhile. We could be having a emergency drill on one side of that repeater, and a couple of guys could be talking about their hips hurting on another side of it, and they don't even know. That is worth it for me. Repeaters are incredibly expensive, much more expensive than I thought when I decided to get into the game. So to be able to have 2 for the price of 1 is awesome. So great voice quality, 2 for the price of 1. You get low quality. I would say, well, sometimes low quality, low cost gear, low barrier to entry, and you've got things like these hotspots. Makes it an awesome boat. There's a lot to learn. We just scratched the surface today. My repeater is set up where you can hit a button and it will send a digital command to the repeater. It will look at where you're at geographically through GPS and then send you the weather where you're at. Pinpoint. You can do all kinds of pretty stuff with that. I can send my son a text message on his cell phone from that radio through my repeater, and he can reply and it will come out on my radio. So there's a ton of stuff you can do with it. It's really endless, but it's a lot of fun. Definitely recommend getting into it.
And you don't need a special license as long as you've got a technician, amateur extra, or general class. DMR is open. There are no restrictions. Plain and simple. Rick?
And I talked before about computers. This is marrying computers and radio. You know, the two are intertwined. So you kind of have to be inclined. You don't have to do that much. You gotta do some. And but you heard some of the capabilities, what he's doing with his computer, what you can do with your own hotspot, what you can do with your own radio. And it's just a lot of fun. And then you meet a group like these guys, and I had a lot of fun with them. You know, and then back and forth. We haven't had any real rows yet, and we try to help folks. But the barrier is you got to be, you know, actually in there and working DMR to be part of that group. How can we reach out and make it easy for you guys? I guess in that question, we talked about maybe doing some beginners meeting. Somebody gets a radio and tries to start the program and maybe help them go online. Identify some numbers that are close.
Dustin does that. You guys have questions on DMR. You know, Dustin's a great resource on that. And you mentioned earlier on his thought about sharing and helping code plugs with DMR amateur radio operators.
So you can start easy, and then get deeper and deeper. And then it comes up to here. So,
and you can also, you heard Bridgecom Systems. They're one of the ones that they do a plug and play package. They program the radio. You get it, you turn it on. 1 minute later, you can make connections. It's that simple. You pay for it. But that's not cheap. And Dustin mentioned, you know, with me, I had that, the Ultra Code Plug. I got 1,400 talk groups on my radio. I use 10. So I put those in a special zone, my favorite zone. Those are where you can find me most of the time. In fact, you can find us on Brandmeister 31266, the Michigan Nets channel, as well as TGIF 31268, the DMR Tech Net channel. That's listed under the talk groups. We got Brandmeister and TGIF there. Those are the Michigan ones we're aware of, but get involved. It is fun. And what I really love is the sound quality. To me, you just can't go wrong with that. All right. This is Dana KCØMYP, Dustin N8RMA, Rick AD8KN. Thank you all for joining us tonight. If you have any questions, you can always reach us. And thanks for everyone else for joining in. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you. Alan joined us too. Cool. Thank you, Curt. Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Steve. Steve, have fun in Scotland. Don't forget to wear your kilt over there.
I'll have a lot of fun.